Critical Doubt, Off the Grid FBI Series, Number 7, by Barbara Freethy. Narrated by Amy Mcfadden. Chapter 1. Only the good die young. The phrase went around in Ryker's head as he walked into the church auditorium Monday afternoon for the celebration of life honoring Lieutenant Paul Hawkins, dead at the age of 32. He'd stood in the back of the church during the funeral, hidden in the shadows, exactly the way he liked it. But now he had to face the widow of one of his best friends. He had to acknowledge that Paul was gone. Another one of his brothers had fallen. Paul hadn't died in combat like Leo and Carlos. He'd passed away after a freak fall from the roof of a house, where he'd downed too many shots of tequila in an attempt to escape the demons that had been chasing him, and every one of their 7-member Army Ranger unit, including himself. The past 9 months had been hell, ever since a mission had led his team into a deadly ambush. 2 had died, 3 had been injured, and while 2 had escaped without physical wounds, they hadn't escaped psychological injury. In less than an hour, his team had been shattered. They would never do another mission again. Not one of them was still in the Army. They had either left by choice or been forced out through death and medical restrictions. For him, it had not been a choice to leave the service, but his physical injuries had been too severe to continue to serve as a ranger, and he'd wanted to do nothing else. So his military career that had started at West Point and lasted another 12 years was over. But the deaths weren't over. The repercussions from that deadly ambush were still rolling, and today they were being felt by Abby Hawkins, a 30-year-old woman, and her 7-year-old son, Tyler. They stood by a table draped in the American flag, a gold urn in the center containing the ashes of a man who had not only been a soldier, but also a husband and a father. Abby had long, reddish-brown hair that hung like curtains on either side of her face. Every now and then, she seemed to duck behind those curtains to take a second for herself. But then she had to come back out, fake a smile, listen to whatever words of condolence were coming her way. Tyler was at her side, a freckle-faced, ginger-haired kid who looked as unhappy as anyone Ryker had ever seen. Abby's parents were nearby, also appearing strained and emotional. There wasn't anyone present from Paul's family. His mom had died when he was 3, and his father, who had also been a military man, had passed away 7 years ago. Since then, Abby's family had become Paul's family.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?